This is my Google Pixel Fold. I've had this device for 6 months now, and I'm making this video because I want to do a 6-month review on it. I'm going to talk about a few different things about the phone, but I kind of just want to give kind of a roundabout idea of what it's been like to have this phone and kind of set the right expectations if this is a phone that you want to get at some point. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about here is going to be the price of the phone. At $1,800, I think a phone is almost out of the question. I definitely didn't pay $1,800 outright for this device. The reason that I am able to afford it is because, one, I work at a retail carrier where I get a pretty good discount on my unlimited plan. But also on top of that, there was also a specific installment deal on this phone that made it a lot cheaper for me to own. Now, when I say installment deal, what I mean is I'm paying on installments instead of $1,800 outright. I am paying $30 a month over 36 months. That comes out to a total of $1,080. So at $1,080, it's actually a good deal. However, that is on the condition that I stay with this company over that 36 months. When it comes to these installment deals, they're not just generous. They're not giving me $800 right off the bat. They're saying if I stay with them over 36 months, instead of paying $52 a month, which is what it would actually be, they're going to comp $22 of my bill, and then it's going to come out to about $30 a month. But if I were to try and leave early, I would have to pay the remaining retail balance. So as far as price goes, I'm actually getting a pretty good deal on this device, but it's conditional. So as far as price goes, this is an expensive device, and based off that $1,800 price, times are tough right now. It's a little hard to recommend something at that price point, especially when you can go out and if you were to buy like a Samsung S23 or S24 Ultra, you're looking at somewhere around $1,200, or for the Pixel 8 Pro, you're looking at a clean $1,000. This is almost double the price of Google's flagship phone, yet it doesn't have all of those flagship specs. Now, what do I mean by flagship specs? Well, for starters, this phone came out in the same year as the Google Pixel 8 Pro, but because it was released before the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro, it has an older chip. That doesn't really seem acceptable. I mean, especially if it came out in the same year, just wait a few months and let it release side by side. Hopefully that's what Google is going to do this year, but only time will tell. Now, while it does have the older chip, that doesn't really bug me all too much. I do know that people say that this chip tends to overheat, but I've never had the phone actually overheat. It's never said, hey, set the phone down, it's getting too hot. I've never got any warnings. There are just times where it starts to feel a little bit warm. But if you're someone like me who has clammy hands, that's something that you've dealt with before. All phones tend to feel a little warm after a while. In fact, anything I hold tends to feel a little warm after a while. So yeah, this phone does get warm, but so does everything else. So I personally can't really comment too much about that. The next kind of disappointment is honestly the camera. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a nice camera and it has a telephoto lens, which is usually the big distinctive difference between a Pro phone and a standard phone. But even though it has that telephoto lens, it's not as good as the Pixel 8 Pro. The Pixel 8 Pro's camera is just a lot better. So are a lot of other ones out there. Now, this isn't unique to Google. Samsung did the same thing. If you go to their Z Fold 5, it doesn't have the same camera as their S23 Ultra, even though it's more expensive than the S23 Ultra, or the S24 for that matter. For whatever reason, these phones, despite being the most expensive ones on the market, they just don't have all of the same specs. One thing that these phones do have, actually, that I actually love, both on the Samsung side and the Google side, is it has an actual fingerprint unlock button. I love fingerprint unlock buttons. I don't know if that's just because I'm a boomer and I still think it's awesome tech. It's really old. It's been around since the Galaxy S5, but it's awesome, and I wish more phones would have them. So that's kind of a win for the phone being built a little cheaper in some ways, is that it has some of the older tech, but hey, sometimes the old tech is better. Next thing I want to mention is the battery life. Now, this phone does not have the best battery, and that is something that isn't entirely specific to it. I mean, all folding and flip phones don't have the best battery. You always have to keep a cord around with you, just because, I mean, the phones, despite being bigger, they don't really have more space. I mean, yeah, it's bigger, but it's also got a lot more screens than any other phone, and screens take up juice. Now, luckily for me, I work at a retail carrier, so there are Type-C chargers everywhere around me. And then in my apartment, I have a Switch, a PlayStation, everything uses a Type-C cord, so it's not hard to charge it. But if you are someone who's out in the woods or you work a lot and you're not in an office where you can charge things, then yeah, that can be a problem and it might make it a little bit harder to use. But just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're working with here, I've been on this phone just about all day. I'm at 5.5 hours of on-screen time. My brightness has been maxed out all day. I just recently turned Bluetooth off just about a few minutes ago before this video because I was tinkering with the watch and I didn't want it vibrating constantly during the video. But with Bluetooth on and max brightness, we got 19% left and we've used it for about 5.5 hours. I'm guessing when it's fully dead, that'll be at least 7 hours, which isn't great. But considering max brightness with Bluetooth on, and I've been doing some online shopping, some TikTok, some streaming, stuff like that. Yeah, it kind of makes sense. So it's a bummer, but it's not the end of the world. I kind of understand why the battery is the way it is, though I do hope we see more improvements. There have been software improvements since this phone has come out. I remember seeing videos earlier of people quoting around 4 to 5 hours, whereas I've been consistently getting about 6 and 7 hours. But hopefully we see more improvements because I do believe that the other foldables do have better batteries despite having the same challenges. I think that is just with it being a first-gen foldable, it's going to have a few kinks. Next thing I want to talk about are the ergonomics of the device, how it feels to use it, especially going from one-handed to two-handed. And I got to say, I'm really happy with the phone. Big reason I bought it was because of the cover screen. I thought this was a much more attractive cover screen than what's on the Samsung's foldable, and I just thought it'd be a little bit easier to use with one hand, especially since I don't have the biggest paws. Having something where I can reach the majority of the screen with a thumb in one hand, I really like that. However, I do want to say that is not all credit due to the Pixel Fold and the people who designed it. It's also the accessories I use with it. This case is MagSafe compatible, so I'm able to use things like a clicker with it. So whether or not I'm holding it with my left hand or with my right hand, I can comfortably hold it with one hand. So if I'm laying down at night in bed and I'm, holding this above my head, it's not going to fall on me and I don't have to try that hard to hold it. It's pretty comfortable. So the ergonomics of this phone are awesome, but I do want to keep in mind it's not always the design of the phone itself. Sometimes it also has to do with the accessories you use with it. It's not just the phone that makes the experience, it's also the accessories and the other things you use in tangent. Next thing I want to talk about is the durability. One thing you have to realize with this phone is that the screen is plastic, so it's not like glass where if you hit it, it shatters or it doesn't, or it has to be something pretty sharp to scratch it. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could grow my fingernail out and I could carve my name into the screen, and it would just be there forever. In fact, as I look closely, I'm seeing something here in the crease that I've never seen before. I mean, I just turned the phone off and I wiped it, and now I'm noticing that I don't know what that is. I haven't seen any dead pixels, and I've done some frequent dead pixel tests. One thing I have noticed, you can kind of see almost a little pokey or something right there on the screen of the device. That's been there a few weeks, and it's not going away. I've heard people talking about these phones healing over time. I don't know how true that is, but they're definitely not the most durable, which is kind of a problem because if you remember earlier when I was talking about the installment deals, they're having you finance these things over 3 years. Well, if the phone at 6 months is starting to get dents and scratches like that, I kind of wonder if the thing is going to last 3 years, and I don't know if it will. Google has claimed that this is the most durable foldable phone yet. I don't know how true that is, and I don't know the legitimacy to that claim. What I do know is I had a Samsung Z Flip 3 and a Z Flip 4, and at 8 months with each phone, I had to go to a U-break iFix to get the inner screen replaced. Now, luckily for me, the warranty covered it and it didn't cost me money, but what it did cost was a full day trip. I had to drive up to Portland, which is 2 hours away from where I live, and I had to beat the traffic there. Because not only did this place only have a few parts lying around to fix my phone, but it was a first come, first serve. So one time I got there, I had my phone there all day. I get there at the end of the day and they apologized because they didn't have time to get to my phone. So that whole day was wasted. Sure, the warranty covered it, but the fact that I had to go somewhere to get it fixed and it took me several hours was just a huge pain. It would be better to not have to have a phone that needs to be replaced so much. Now, I'm only a few months away from the 8-month mark, so time will tell if this phone is at least tougher than the Z Flip 3 and the Z Flip 4. But I don't expect this phone to last for too long, and it's for that reason that I decided to pony up and pay the extra to get protection on this device, just because I don't want to get caught paying for a phone that doesn't work anymore. That would be a huge bummer, and it would definitely make it harder to ever buy another one of these phones again. Just a couple more things I want to mention about this device specifically. I know I've gone over a lot of different things about it, but just a few more things I want to put at the very end of the video, just to kind of wrap things up and maybe help you decide whether or not this is a phone that's worth spending the money on or checking out. Last thing I kind of want to talk about to wrap this up is I just kind of want to do a quick comparison between this phone and some of the other phones out there in my thoughts. Like I've mentioned a few times, I work for a retail carrier, so I kind of just play with phones all day, watch retail training videos to kind of learn more about them. And the reason I went with this phone over the competition, despite being in the Samsung ecosystem, was that, like I said maybe earlier, was the cover screen. I kind of wanted to try it out and go for that. But since having this phone and since using some of the other phones, I do think this is the best foldable on the market as of right now, just from a user's experience. Now, the reason why I say that is, well, let's just take a look at the competition. We have the Motorola Razr, which is very cool, and I'm very interested in it, and I would like to, potentially even, work with Motorola one day, just because I think they're doing a lot of cool, radical stuff, but I didn't buy the Razr for a good reason. I didn't think it was going to last as long. I've seen the durability test, and it just doesn't stack up against the Z Flip. Even though the Razr was the whole reason I stepped away from iPhone, was because I saw the concepts and the leaks and stuff like that, and I thought, wow, I want that to be my next phone. It was either that or the LG Wing, and I didn't end up going with either because both were just a little bit too much on the cheaper side. I didn't have any confidence that the phone was going to last. I've seen customers come in, get the Razr, and then come back a few months later and complain because it's already broken. Now, whether or not that's user error or just the phone not being as good, I just don't think it's tough enough to last. And also, I think that out of all the specs and hardware, I think that the Motorola is going to be the weakest of them. Finally, going over to Samsung, loved the Z Flip 3, loved the Z Flip 4. Who knows, maybe I'll go back. If Google decides that they don't want to make folding phones anymore, it's possible I could switch. I don't know how likely that is. I do love the Google interface, but the Z Flip was great, and I have nothing bad to say. The Z Fold, however, I'm not as big of a fan of. I feel like in order to enjoy that phone, you have to open it up because the cover screen is so narrow. Every time I've gotten my hands on one or tried to play with the one in the store, it's just felt uncomfortably being so cramped together and, having a screen that's so high up, I have to move my hand around a lot to get to it. I don't like that. The cool thing about this phone is that it's got an awesome cover screen, and as a bonus, I can open it up to see what's on the inside. That's awesome. It doesn't feel like I have to open the phone to enjoy it. It feels like I get to open the phone and I get more out of it. So that's why I like this phone so much. And then as for the software side, I actually think it's a lot more enjoyable than a Samsung. And the reason for that is the One UI. I'm going to share a little story real quick, but back around Thanksgiving when I was working for this company, I noticed I've helped about 5 different customers with different Samsungs who came in because after the recent update, their phone wasn't working. And I don't mean the phone itself, I mean the phone app. They would go in and try to make a call and it would say, phone keeps stopping or phone keeps quitting. And there was nothing we could do about it because it was all on the Samsung side. It was that One UI. It's a forced update. It's just a skin that goes over the Android that makes it a little more prone to complications and issues. Also, I think, just someone who's had a Samsung, it's really confusing when I'm trying to send a message and it's like, oh, wait, which do you want to be the default message? Why is that a decision? Like, I get that it's cool maybe to have 2 messages, but it's also really confusing. I would have other Samsung users who would customize their messaging and I didn't know why mine didn't look the same or why I didn't have the same options, and it was because I had the wrong app selected. Also, 2 Play stores, so sometimes if I wanted to update an app, I'd go look for the update and wouldn't see it. Oh, that's right, I downloaded this from the other Play store. Google is just more simple than that. Now, I get that that's not that complicated and it's not a big deal. It's very easy to learn the differences between the apps on your phones, but, or you could just get a Google that has a very basic Android, a very clean Android, and honestly, it's so clean and it works so well, it almost feels like an iPhone sometimes, and that's cool. I joked around before I got this phone that, I'm only here for the Fold, but since getting it, I've actually become the Google rep at the store I work in just because I like it. I like it so much that I said, hey, is there any way I can have like a Google phone as my work phone instead of an iPhone? And the only way to do that was to become the Google rep, so I did. Now, of course, with that being said, I wanted to share that just so you know, I do slightly have a bias. I like the Google phones more, but it's not because Google is paying me. I don't get paid to be the Google rep. The only benefit to that is that I get to use a Google phone for my work. There's no payment. Google doesn't own making these videos, and honestly, they wouldn't care if I did. If anything, if the people at work knew about these videos, I'd probably just get fired quicker. So, all that being said, I think this phone's an awesome phone, and I think that if you live in the US and you're looking for a folding phone and you're going to go into a retail carrier to get it, this is the best option you have. But there's a lot of reasons not to get this phone. A lot of the reasons posted up here. If you have any questions, please drop a comment down below. Let me know what your questions are. Or if you have concerns about the phone or if you've had an experience, you want to share it, please do it. And if you're willing to take the time to leave a comment, I'll respond to each and every one of you. Even the ones who just want to tell me to sleep more and get the bags under my eyes, If you're going to take the time, I'll take the time. But anyways, that's enough talking. I want to thank you guys for watching this video and giving me a shot. I'm going to continue to make more videos just because I kind of wanted to get a little better at talking about these things, and I'd hope to see that they get better in time. And who knows, maybe after watching this video, the right expectations have been set. Maybe you're ready to pull the trigger on one of these, or maybe this is the video you watch that saves you $1,800 in a bad experience. But either way, thank you guys again. I look forward to making more videos. And I think that next I'll probably do a camera test or something like that. But anyways, you all have a good night, and I look forward to hearing from you down below.